Hey, welcome back to Taking Flight. In the last two episodes, we focused on getting our page layout together using container components and spacing. In this episode, we're going to talk about what I think is the most fun part, which is getting your page to look awesome with all of Landing Line's styling features. We're going to cover stuff like backgrounds, and fonts, and colors, and I'll show you some pro tips and tricks too. Alright, so we're back to the page we started the last two episodes. It clearly needs a lot of work, so let's make it look good now. The best place to start is the Theme tab. This is where we can define properties that will apply to the whole page. For example, we can add a single background that will span from top to bottom. No worries, later we can change the background of individual components, but sometimes it's nice to start with an overall background. Here's your color palette, and it's really nice for your design workflow. You define a set of colors that you want to use for your page. I've already chosen a color scheme that I like, so I filled the color palette in with all the hex values, so I can use these colors later. You can also set a default color for your text, but I'm planning on using white font for my page, and if I change it now to white, all the text will be invisible, so I'm just going to leave that alone for now. But we should definitely choose different font styles for this page. I want something spacey, so I'm going to choose a font called Russo 1 for the headings, and a font called Assistant for the body. Next, we should change the sizes. Headings are the larger fonts on your page, so I want my main heading 1 to be real big. Let's try 120. Boom. And then the next level of headings should be something more reasonable, like 30. We're only going to use 2 heading levels, so we can just ignore the other ones. 20 will be a good size for the body text. That's a good start for the global styling of our page. Now we can go to each component and change their styling individually. Let's work on our backgrounds, starting with our hero section. Clicking this plus will add a background. Let's pick a color background. Here we see all the colors we picked in our color palette, which is convenient for keeping a consistent look on our page. Let's go with this purple. But you know what? I changed my mind. I don't want a solid color for my hero background. I want something more fun, like a video. I found this YouTube video earlier that I think would look pretty neat, so I just copy and paste the YouTube link, and now we have a cool video background. We can even add a little parallax to give the background a dynamic feel when we scroll. Okay, so now these two backgrounds are on top of each other, with the video sitting on top of the color background we made. I could use this color to apply a filter effect to the video. We can reorder the backgrounds by clicking and dragging the bar to the left. Now I reduce the opacity of the color background to let the video shine through, and now we have an awesome background for our hero. The black text doesn't really look that good on this background, so I say we change it to white. All text can be edited directly in the editor by double-clicking to pull up the text toolbar. So just like that, white text. This text is also still a paragraph instead of a headline too, so let's change that real quick. Let's do the same thing to these headings and make them purple. We can use the same opacity technique we used for the hero background to style these images. Turning the opacity down gives the image a softer feel that fits the page a little better in my opinion. Here's a Landing Line pro tip too. You can copy and paste styles from any component to any other component. So if I copy this reduced opacity style, I can apply it to any other component like the other two images. Alright, features section looks good. Last section we have to style is the call to action. Let's add a few extra fields to this form, and while we're at it, we can style the text that's next to it too. I'll show you how to do a gradient background, although I'm going to make an entire video dedicated to gradients because there's so much you can do with them. So let's add the gradient background. We choose the colors we want to blend by clicking on the arrows. Let's pick purple and black. Moving the arrows adjusts where the colors begin to blend together. You can add more colors by clicking within the color bar. Then we can change the direction of the gradient by clicking and dragging the arrow on our angle control. Before we move on, I feel the need to adjust the spacing on these two sections. It's gonna bug me otherwise. While we're at it, we can change the color of this text. Let's get creative now. You remember that dinner I made in the last episode? I made the plate by adding a border, rounding the edges, and adding a drop shadow to a column. So let's try using those techniques with this form. I'm going for something more futuristic. So let's add a pink border, round the edges a little, and give it a pink glow by adding a drop shadow. Once again, you'll see this angle control that lets you adjust the direction of the shadow, which will be activated if you have an offset above 0. I'll keep it at 0 because I want a more glow effect instead of a shadow effect. We'll make it pink, increase the spread to make it bigger, and then add more blur to make it look glowier. And there you have it. In just a few minutes, we made a page that's almost ready to go live and start collecting leads. But there's one last thing I want to do before showing the world my page, and that's making sure that the page looks just as good on a mobile device. That's what we'll cover next, so stay tuned for another episode of Taking Flight.